G'day everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Battlefield Gaming Podcast, presented by General Games. I'm Background Mike. I've got BFG Justin right here with me.
G'day guys.
And today we're joined by our special guest, RaptorImperialis, otherwise known as Kieran.
Great to be here, lads.
Or the king of heresy, the prince, the prince of fantasy.
They're pretty good titles.
Yeah,
That's not too bad.
I'll take it.
So as always, guys, actually, this is a first. I've actually remembered. If you can please like and subscribe, that would help our channel out massively.
Yeah.
So hit that thumbs up for us, and we'll crack into it. How's everyone been last 2 weeks? How are you, Justin?
Busy.
Busy man?
Yeah. So we had our meeting with. I need to go like this. We had our meeting with DreamHack. So we got informed of what we can and can't do, and everything we wanted to do, we're able to do. So we'll be running some basic paint classes at DreamHack.
Introduction to painting.
Yep, intro. So think of what you would get at Games Workshop. Very, very simple intro paint classes. We'll do some more in-depth BFG Justin paint classes at some stage, but that won't be at DreamHack. And we're also going to be running a live battle report. So live educational battle report. Not sure how many games we'll get in during a day because it's going to be 6 hours. So we might only fit 2 games, I think, because it'll be very slow played stuff.
And it's 40k showcase, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've been asked to represent 40k and tabletop gaming. No other. So we haven't been asked to represent Age of Sigmar or Old World or any of that type of stuff. So I've been painting Tyranids up for that because I'll be playing Blood Angels. We've got one of the guys from Adelaide coming across. He'll be playing Black Templars. And I'm painting up Tyranids for the Space Marines Diverse because I think it's just an iconic battle between Space Marines and Tyranids.
Yeah.
So
unaliving some Xenos.
Yeah, unaliving some Xenos. Tonight will be day 14 of painting the Tyranids, and I'm still going all right. I'm still doing okay, but it's a lot of work. It's not the normal painting I would do. It's a bit more speed painted because we do have a deadline.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been up to. No tutorials, none of that type of stuff, just painting Tyranids.
And how many points are you looking to have completely painted for the DreamHack showcase?
I was planning on doing 850. Because that is essentially what is in the Leviathan box. And then we recently had the data slate drop with point changes. So I have to paint some more models now. which is a little bit annoying, but it'll be cool. More models on the board, so 850 points. We'll play on a regular sized table because I was thinking about doing a 4x4 and it was just too small. So yeah, should be a good variety of Tyranids on the board, and that will be played by Mark. So Mark was on episode 2, the Dice Daddy. He will be playing the Tyranids.
Yeah,
and I might general them once or twice. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and we get to do a podcast live from DreamHack as well.
That's so good, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully should have a time slot to do a live podcast at the show, which should be fun.
Yeah, if they don't give us enough time to do one of our regular sort of hours, because we sort of do an hour and a half on a podcast, I feel like sometimes we might push 2 hours. If we've only got an hour slot, we might see if we can get 2 and just do 2 shorter format podcasts from DreamHack. But
yeah,
the last information we're sort of waiting on is the area size we're going to have, because it's going to sort of determine how many paint areas we can set up as well as our gaming table. So
yeah,
4x4, 4 meters by 4 meters, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, if we get any smaller than that, then we might only be able to run, 4 paint classes instead of the 8 we were hoping to run.
But yeah, we've got a rough idea and going over it with Ben from DreamHack. We're just sort of waiting because obviously there's a lot of logistics that go into organising an event like that. So he's got to figure out where to put everyone, not just us. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even think the location has been announced yet because they were still working through some stuff with the Victorian government. Yeah. Dates have been announced. Tickets are not yet on sale. I think Feb 5th was when they were going to plan on having them for sale. Yeah. So hopefully that is the case because it's not a lot of time to organise tickets. And the sooner we know the exact details, the better for us because we've got a lot of stuff to organise for ourselves. We've got like banners and stuff we need to do to partition our area off and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's a huge opportunity for Battleforge Gaming. General Games are going to be supplying us with models for it and the paints and the tables for the painting. So that's fantastic. It's not something we really need to stress about. So yeah, exciting. Very exciting.
Very
like
exciting.
yeah, it's just the opportunity we couldn't pass up really.
100%. Something to look forward to in April.
That's
Yep.
amazing. Are the demo games going to be games that people can join in on to play? Or?
So it'll mainly just be like a live bat rep,
Okay.
but we might get some audience to come up and roll some dice or move some models.
Use a single unit or something?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, try and get as much
Sounds amazing.
interaction as possible.
Yeah.
For sure. Get
Yeah.
people excited.
Make sure their hands are clean though. No touching my blood angels
Little
without
hand
clean
sanitizer
Yeah,
on the
it's gonna be-
table.
It's going to be like COVID rules all over again.
Pretty much.
1.2 meters, clean hands,
Yep.
mask.
Social distance from the models.
Don't breathe on the blood angels.
That's it.
And Kieran, how about yourself?
Yeah, I've been really well. Yeah, I'm painting old world models at the moment, and is really enjoying those. Going back to my roots. At the moment, I'm working on some Sea Guard, which are really detailed infantry models. It's it's definitely a bit of a change from painting Space Marines that are 90% one color that I can airbrush.
Yeah.
Now I can only airbrush about 50% of the model, and that's a lot of detail on those models. About as much detail on each infantry model as like on a Space Marine captain or chapter master. So there's a lot of work, but I'm really happy with how they're going. It's really kind of feeding my inner child, and it's bringing back a lot of nostalgia for me. So I'm really enjoying the project at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of an average game for fantasy is, I think I was rating 3,000 points.
No, it'd be 2,000 points. Although kind of towards the end of 8th edition, they were heading towards 2,500. So it remains to be seen where we kind of end up at this stage. I suppose initial events might be smaller to cater for more people
Yeah.
joining the hobby and getting into it. And I think some of the new starter sets are around 1,300 or 1,400 points. So maybe tournaments will be a bit smaller, but I think 2,000 points is about the sweet spot for the old world.
Yep. And your
Yeah.
Sea Guard, how many points are they for like a brick of 20?
A brick of 20 would be around 250 points. So they are expensive, but they're not that expensive considering the amount of detail on the model. And I was planning to have a lot more originally, but after painting the first 10, I'm not even finished. I think I might have to paint some easier models for to fill out the rest of the core allotment, because you need to have I think at least 25% of your army as a core option, and they're usually kind of the more basic models, cheaper models. So I might go looking for some other alternative options. I think maybe some archers, which I don't really like the models at all. They're very old. The models are 22, 23 years old.
That's
And-
sort of my only gripe with
They-
Old World right now.
Especially these models, they did not age well. There's some of the oldest models still in the range probably, and but they're just so much easier to paint. They're just robes with a bow pretty much.
Yeah.
With the Sea Guard, I've got so much detail, so I might have to let myself down gently and paint some easier models that might not look as nice. Yeah.
Will you return to the Sea Guard though?
Oh,
You're gonna,
definitely.
like a big block of 20.
I'll definitely do at least 20, but I was originally planning two units of 20, so I might just end up with just 20. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we've actually got a photo of the Sea Guard. I think it was number 3 there. So that's the first batch.
Yeah.
Yeah. How far away are they? Because this is still a whip for.
Yeah, still a work in progress. So I just did, before I came in today, some highlights on the metallics. So I just need to finish off highlighting the shields, highlighting the white robes, and then they'll be pretty much done apart from bases. So
How long do you think it's taken you? On average, how long do you think one takes?
no idea. But like I could have painted 30 Space Marines in the same time to paint
Damn.
10 of those at least. When I was painting the Death Guard, going for it, I was painting about 10 a week with the airbrush. It makes it really easy. And I've been painting these guys for months on and off. So you just need to paint a little bit and then go away and take a break and paint something fun like one of the mages or the dragon or something, just to recharge the battery a bit. And I'm thinking after painting these guys, I might even need to just paint a Space Marine to really recharge the battery. Just something
Man,
nice and easy that I really enjoy.
I'm a sucker for pain. I'd just be like, I'm pushing through.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the 20 in a row, and then that's it.
I'd be worried about just completely burning myself out after that and just ruining the hobby for myself. So I need a little bit of a break. So yeah, I think I'll paint another Death Guard next, and then move on to whatever's next. Maybe some archers. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Because those models, they're still the original fantasy models, so they're 20 plus years old.
No, the Sea Guard are a bit newer. They were originally released in the Island of Blood set.
I was going to say, I thought I recognised them.
I don't know, like 2010 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure when it was, but they're significantly newer than a lot of the old high elf models. So they're not amazing by today's standards, but they're not that bad for like monopose. They're 2-piece models. The spear comes separately, but everything else is just a single lump of plastic. So some of the details not amazing, but considering how old they are, they're pretty nice. And considering how old the high elf range is in general, they're some of the nicer models. So yeah, can't complain too much, but they're not at the same standard as you'd expect today. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with that, the Warhammer Fantasy models, I guess they're going to start creating new or updated sculpts eventually, you would feel, depending on how popular it is. And from it appears very, very popular, because I went to the website and they'd sold out on like absolutely everything when they first launched it. The difficult part is obviously the rank and file type of pose, which doesn't allow for the sort of dynamic poses we get in Age of Sigmar or 40k.
Yeah.
Because you need to have the models right next to each other. They did start to do that towards the end of the end times, but you're limited. Like, I think specific models had to stand next to specific models, so the weapons would overlap onto the model next to them.
Yeah, when building a unit, you'd have to be very careful about ranking up the models. So depending on the kit, you'd almost build, one model at a time and make sure they fit together, model by model.
So that's a key difference with, obviously we're going to talk a lot about Old World today.
Yeah.
That's a key difference with that gaming system, isn't it? It actually has a movement tray, is it?
If you got massive units, you end up with movement trays to shift them around.
And ranking up is a term where they're all collated together on the one tray.
Base to base, all together. Like, unlike Age of Sigmar or any other game, really, from Warhammer that, usually use round bases and, in a kind of skirmish formation, so not, touching bases.
Yeah.
So, I'd have to, build a model, number it, build another model, number the base, just to make sure I knew exactly where each model went.
So they can only fit side by side in a certain way. Is that?
It depends how you build them. Some models are fine, like smaller models, like a Night Goblin, you could build it however you want. It'll fit on the base. But bigger models like Chaos Warriors, you really had to be conscious of how the model next to it was going to be built.
Wow.
To fit it on the base. So, I think now with the Old World, though, a lot of the bases have been increased in size. Nearly all of them have. So there's a lot more scope to fit larger models.
Right.
And it'll be much easier. Like, if you have a look at the new Age of Sigmar Chaos Warriors, they're far more dynamic and larger than the old Chaos Warriors.
Yeah.
But you can still use them and rank them up quite nicely because the bases have gone up to 30 mil bases from 25 mil bases.
Oh, so it's a 30 mil square base.
Yeah. So there's a lot more space, and the cavalry bases have gone up in size as well. So the new Chaos Knights, which are massive models, like way bigger than the old ones, they can still rank up quite well. And I think that's the case with most Age of Sigmar models now. They'll probably be able to rank up. You might have a bit of trouble with like the Lizard Man, or Seraphon, whatever you want to call them. Saurus Warriors because of their tails. But apart from that, like the larger base sizes really mean that you can use those Age of Sigmar models to play the Old World quite easily.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realise they'd upgraded the sizes. That's awesome.
Yeah, all the
Is that
20
something that's just happened with the release of
Yes,
the
just
Old
with this
World?
release, yeah. So all the 20 mil bases went to 25 mil, and most of the 25 went to 30. Not all of them, but most, yeah. So most models are on a larger base.
Even if you had an army, they're trying to get people to buy bases.
Yeah,
to rebase.
they are selling bases, obviously, but a lot of people take the approach, which is what I'll be taking with my old Warriors of Chaos army that are still on 25 mil bases.
Just leave them.
Getting some spaces.
Ah, right.
Movement trays with spaces on them.
That's cool.
Just to expand the unit to represent the new footprint of the 30 mil bases. And that's much quicker than rebasing all the models. Obviously, you can lock yourself into a formation in that regard because you won't be able to move the models as around as much because you're stuck on a movement tray. But that's perfectly fine for me. I know what kind of formation I want my warriors to be in, so the space bases are perfect for that. Really kind of quick way to address the base size changes. And, if you play with your mates most of the time and they don't care about base changes, just crack on. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
It's just, I think the larger bases generally look nice on the models, a bit more space, and much easier to build models. So it's all good.
Yeah, the older stuff used to be pretty cramped on bases, like even Space Marines.
Yeah.
They used to have the 24 mil base and they're like
Foot sticking off the edge.
feet going off the edge, and Necron warriors. So
yeah,
bigger bases is better.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
I think we've already started the topic of Warhammer Fantasy by the sounds of it.
Straight into it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Old World. Old World.
Yeah.
I usually call it fantasy as well, but I just, I suppose try and refer to the actual name so new people understand. But when I'm talking about it to mates and stuff, I always just call it fantasy. So
Yeah.
So
it's just the same to me.
I have
Same
had
way.
some people be like, "What is this new what's Old World?"
Yeah.
And you explain to them, it's like it's just fantasy.
Yeah.
I've just called it Old World.
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
So it is a little bit confusing for some people with
Yeah.
Games Workshop coming out with the new name.
I think being aimed at a lot of like the original fantasy community, though, I don't think there's going to be like their target audience is probably going to be they'll know what's going on. But
sure.
if you're a fresh player to Warhammer, then sure it would be
Old
totally
World.
totally confusing.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so Old World, I mean, we may as well go over the topic. Old World is coming in as fantasy essentially, but where does that fit in the timeline? Is this post fantasy, or is it smack bang in the middle of?
So it's set in the Imperial calendar year 2276, I think.
So is a prequel to
It is.
essentially what? So there was, for people that don't know, Warhammer Fantasy had its whole storyline, and
Yep.
then they almost wrote themselves into a corner, and they're like, "Where do we go from here?" And the game was very hard for new people to get into, so they just came out with the end times, and I don't think anyone knew that it was just going to be like the hard end of fantasy.
No.
It was just like a massive surprise to everyone, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, here's Age of Sigmar. All your models are on round bases. Enjoy this crazy new rule set.
The world
So-
you love literally blew up.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So this is a prequel to before all of that happened.
Yeah, so the end times happen in around the year 2500. So this is 2024 years before. So it's set before the old world is beset by chaos invasions every few hundred years, and this is set prior to the previous chaos invasion that wiped out the old world. So it's set in a time where obviously there are changes in the lore because of the time it's set. Certain things
Haven't
haven't
yet.
happened.
Yeah.
None of the human characters are alive yet. Many of the elf characters are alive, but aren't what they were. They haven't achieved their status yet. I think there might be a couple of dwarves that are alive, but most of them are really young. So gives them a chance to bring out a lot of new special characters.
I was going to say that's
new
going to give them a
models.
lot of chances, or bring those models back
Yeah.
before they'd reach that sort of power they were at.
Exactly, yeah. So, it'd be interesting to see, a Teclis or a Tyrion that are active and are around during that time, but aren't the kind of the major players that they are now. But I kind of feel that Games Workshop will want to go a different route and create their own new models and new characters for the old world. We've seen the return of Cetra,
Yep.
who's, obviously the Tomb King's High King, but all the Bretonnian characters are new characters, of course, because
Humans don't live that long.
apart from the Green Knight. So we do have the Green Knight, who's a mythical kind of character who is ageless and deathless. So there is definitely kind of space to see returning favourites, but I feel like for the most part they'll probably try to put their new and their own spin on this new game.
It would be cool to see some of the elves you spoke of. Did they actually have models in
Yep.
the fantasy?
Yeah, Teclis
Times?
and Tyrion
They
did.
did?
Yeah.
See, I never got into it early, and I heard people speaking of those characters.
Yeah.
And I never saw any of those models.
Yeah, in 8th edition, most characters, I think maybe even all characters that had rules had models. There were characters from previous editions that might not have had models, but I think in 8th edition... Well, no, actually, that's not true. There are a couple of Chaos ones I can think of that didn't have models, but most models had rules. So there were lots and lots of special characters back then. There were probably more special characters in Fantasy originally than in 40k, but I think they kind of toned it down towards the end a bit, maybe. So, it's just the same kind of balance. Like an army might have, I think the High Elves ended up with 5 special characters maybe, or 6, and that was kind of average for most armies. Yeah.
There was a time where Games Workshop had rules for, like you're saying, rules for models.
Yeah.
But there was no model for it.
Yeah.
So it allowed for awesome, like, kit bashes and conversions and that type of stuff. But they've basically just removed that. They've basically removed that option now. If there's no model for it in 40k, then they just remove the rules.
Where would have that character or model name have come from? Was that from the lore?
It's from the lore, the stories and stuff.
That's cool.
They just sometimes never made a model, and they just allowed your imagination to create that character.
I guess if the fan base and the community sort of like had a massive like favorite character that was created through the lore, like the logistics of getting that model to production and sculpted and pushed out would be
for a while Games Workshop weren't the best at listening to their like fan base and clients, customers and stuff, but they've gotten heaps better with it now, and they produce more models. Back then they weren't producing the models they produce now. You waited months on end to get new stuff. It's not like now where it's like every single weekend there's something new.
Yeah,
but I think it's gonna be really cool for. I don't know if I'll ever get into the old world. Maybe we'll have to see how things go. But the potential for new models is fantastic, and I'm a painter, so new models is great.
Yeah, well, you've got your Daughters of Cain.
Yeah,
is that right? Just put them on a movement tray.
You
got some Dark Elves? Yeah, obviously you haven't got all like the Medusa and Snake models.
I've got like probably.
Do you have any Witch Elves?
10 or 20 witches.
Okay, well, maybe not then, but
actually, no, I did. I built 10 of them and I started painting them. So
do you have a Cauldron of Blood, or you've got?
I do have a Cauldron of Blood. Yeah. But they're all on round bases.
That's all right. The infantry will fit on movement trays pretty easily, but I'm not sure how the Cauldron of Blood. I think that oval base is probably bigger than the square base, so that'll be an issue. But
for sure,
the round bases on the infantry will be fine. Yeah. Anyway,
I
I'm not trying to twist your arm.
No, I think I'd pick a different army. I'd probably lean more towards the Chaos Warriors because you can use the new models for it. Yeah. So if I was ever to go down that route, that's what I'd pick, I think.
Yeah, I think Chaos Warriors are a really sweet spot at the moment because they're one of the mainline kind of armies that's being supported, and they also have not an entire new range from Age of Sigmar, but quite a lot of new models from Age of Sigmar that switch across perfectly well. So it's definitely the way to go. Like a lot of legacy armies, mainline armies at the moment don't have models available. Like you still can't buy any High Elves at the moment. Can't really buy any Wood Elves unless you're buying the tree kind of kin models.
Yeah. Wood Elves were cool. I did like Wood Elves when I saw them.
Yeah, but if you want to collect Old World at the moment, it's quite ironic, but the best armies to collect are the legacy armies that are not kind of being focused on this edition. Such as the ogres, the beastmen are mainline, but the ogres, the undead, dark elves, skaven, demons, they all have quite extensive ranges still available in Age of Sigmar. So at the moment, it's actually easier to collect one of the armies that's not being focused on. But that'll change across the year and the next couple of years when they get out the other ranges. But at the moment, those armies those Age of Sigmar models are just can port across perfectly well. I think I've got absolutely no issue with that. Yeah, definitely.
So right now, if you wanted to get into the old world and play High Elves like you are, what models can you get off the shelf?
Nothing.
Sick.
Yeah. You could try and find some older stuff.
Yeah.
But you best believe that'd be pretty hard to do.
Right.
Yeah. I think the High Elves and maybe the Empire have it. I think the Empire still have some units maybe in the Cities of Sigmar perhaps, but the High Elves definitely don't have any models. The Dwarves have still got a few kits that they can get. They've got quite nice kits from the end of Fantasy, but the High Elves you can't get anything at the moment, so you just got to pay exorbitant eBay prices or have like collections stretching back 20 years of unpainted models.
Like
which is
Kieran.
Like Kieran.
which is the approach I've taken.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. So surely GW would be hustling to get some of these older armies back into production, you would think, with new releases.
Yeah, like they teased the Orcs and Goblins on the 20th, which was the release day. So we've got the Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings at the moment. I'm pretty sure they're all out of stock.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
technically they're available.
No, they were, I went and checked because I was just I was interested in the prices because I didn't see the prices at all. And the prices are, you look at in Australia, a flat $500 for an army is, you think, wow, that's pretty steep. But like you were saying, it's around 1,500 points. You're getting three-quarters of your army. You're getting three-quarters of your army. And if you bought 40K, you're probably looking around the same type of cost. It's just that it's all in one big clump. And I'm not sure.
And older models.
I wonder if General Games had them. I think General Games was selling some of the old world stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had the Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings release. I'm almost certain of
they
that.
would have had a 10% discount on it. So
Yeah, if you can
Pretty
go to
good.
an independent seller, it's definitely the way to go. You get a 20% discount.
yeah, our one.
Yeah.
We're sponsored by.
That one, yeah. That
No,
one,
don't go
yeah.
to anyone else.
No.
General Games, Churnside Park.
That's it.
But yeah, Orcs and Goblins are coming back. And, then they'll get around to Dwarves and Beastmen and High Elves. And I suppose they'll release some of the new Chaos Warriors, although I don't know kind of what the uptake will be on those because there are better, newer Age of Sigmar models.
Yeah. Yep.
I suppose some of the models maybe would still fit that haven't been kind of updated in Age of Sigmar. But apart from that, I'm not sure how much of an uptake there'll be on old Chaos Warrior models compared to
the new stuff.
Age of Sigmar models.
That's sort of my only gripe with
they would be easier to paint. There's less detail
for sure.
And I suppose you could have a front rank of Age of Sigmar Chaos Warriors and back to a couple of ranks of old Chaos Warriors, and that would look actually pretty nice if you wanted to mix and match the old and new. But we'll see how they go. But yeah, exciting times. Old models coming back. Some of them are showing their age more than others.
It's my only gripe is the older sculpts just.
Yeah,
Oh man, it's rough. It's rough.
that's it. And
Paying the regular price and then end up with those Tombkin Skeleton Warriors with the shields. And I'm just like,
they're not even the worst.
it
Though.
would just-
the horses are terrible.
Yeah,
Like,
the horses are bad. It would hurt me.
It really
hurt me.
appeals to some people. They really like that nostalgia of the old Hammer kind of vibe. It's not for me personally, but some people really enjoy that. But a lot of the new models that we've seen are just entirely new models. They're not updates of existing kits or existing units. So it'll be interesting to see if they do resculpt units and models or just release new units and characters, which is what they've done so far. Like the Bretonnian Knights on foot, they're new. They weren't, they're not up. Well, they are updates of old models, but updates of old models from 5th edition or 4th edition or something. So, way back in the 90s. So it remains to be seen if they bring out nice new sculpts for units and that kind of thing for existing units.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's looking like they'll probably just bring out the existing kits and then create new units to sell and new characters to sell. Yeah.
Right on.
Perfect. And how have you been finding, because obviously I follow your journey on Instagram a lot.
I think
and
everyone should follow his journey on
100%,
Instagram.
Yeah, if you're not following Raptor you should, because there's some really good stuff coming up.
High elf
there.
spam. Yeah.
Yeah.
the dragon.
Yeah, Prince Emmerich. But before we get into that, how have you found the painting difference? Because recently you've been doing a lot of Horus Heresy, Warhammer 30K, with a lot of airbrushing and things like that. Are you still using the airbrush a lot on the High Elves?
I'm still using the airbrush as much as I can, but I definitely can't use it as much as I do on the Space Marines. So for the Space Marines, I airbrush all of the armor. So essentially I'm just painting trim, eye lenses, fine details, the soft parts of the armor. So, 90% of the model is airbrushed. Whereas with these High Elves, for example, like when I painted the Swordmasters, they were much easier because they're pretty much fully armored as well. They do have more details than a Space Marine, but I was still able to airbrush a lot of the metal armor, which really spread up the process. But the Sea Guard have got a lot of cloth on them. They've all got, hair hanging out the back of their helmets, huge fancy banner. They've all got, spears with ribbons and pennants hanging from them, detailed shields. They've got wooden bows, quivers of arrows, leather straps, scale armor, white cloth. So I airbrush as much as I can, but airbrushing is only maybe 20% of that model compared to 80 or 90% of the Space Marine. So definitely kind of slows down the process, but it still allows me to paint. I'm mostly airbrushing armor and white cloth on the High Elves, and allows me to kind of create effects that I wouldn't be able to create with the brush still. So still really handle.
Or do them quicker.
Yeah, much quicker. Yeah. So I can get nice smooth transitions on the cloth. I can add in that kind of blue shading that I like to do on the armor and the cloth, and that's all done with the airbrush. So the airbrush is still really, really important, and the effect wouldn't be nearly as good without the airbrush. But a lot more hairy brush work than on a Space Marine. So it's been relearning those skills, and it was a bit clunky at first, but I think it's come back pretty much fully now. Although I would still struggle to paint the kind of the large areas that I used to paint with a hairy brush, but the detail work is still there, so it's not too bad. Yeah.
How much did you use the airbrush on the dragon?
A lot. So all of the dragon itself.
That was seamless.
That was smooth.
The dragon itself is almost entirely airbrushed. I've painted the horns, the mouth, and all of the spikes and the teeth. They're all done with a hairy brush, and the blue scales are done with contrasts. With a
Contrast
hairy
paint.
Yeah, with a hairy brush.
Oof.
Yeah, I know. But all of the white flesh, all of the wings, that's all done with the airbrush. So massively sped up the project. I've had that model for 22 years, I think. I got it as a Christmas or a birthday present when I was a little boy, and it was my favourite model at the time, and I was super excited for it, but I just didn't have the skill or the capacity to paint it, or at least to paint it as well as I wanted to. So I'd undercoated it, I'd built it, I'd undercoated it. I think I'd started a little bit of the blue, and then it, just gone into the bits box for 22 years.
Yeah.
So now with the airbrush, I could, actually paint it much, much quicker, and I could do, the kind of paint job that, 12-year-old Kieran could never have imagined. That would have absolutely blown my mind if I had, been able to look forward into the future and seen that I'd painted this. So yeah, it was really kind of, it was a beautiful thing actually. Just, pure nostalgia for me, and made, my younger self very proud. I was painting a model that I'd always wanted to paint, to a standard that I could never have imagined. So
but
it was just
12-year-old Kieran had to pick up a brush for future Kieran to succeed.
Exactly.
So there was all those models beforehand to get to this point.
Yeah.
There was all the Space Marines to learn how to use the airbrush and get to the point where you're at now to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And this is the part a lot of people don't see when they're getting into the hobby.
Yeah.
Is you will make progress as you go, and every single model sort of paves the way for the next one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you wouldn't think that painting Marines would help you paint a high elf dragon, but
painting is painting.
They did.
That's it. You just have to paint. Don't have to worry about the colours you use too much, or the brushes, or the techniques. You just got to try, build up your own techniques, your own styles. Obviously, there are way more ways to learn and to paint these days than there were back then. I was kind of just reading White Dwarf magazines and making it up.
Now there's tutorials on YouTube.
Tutorials on Battleforge Gaming. So you've never been more spoiled for choice. But it's just about repetitions and getting practice in and just painting and painting. And obviously, if you enjoy it, it really helps. And if you find it therapeutic and fun, then the sky's the limit. Really, obviously, I'm not an award level kind of painter, but I'm very happy with where my painting is at the moment. And little Kieran could never have imagined that I'd be painting the way I am now. So, maybe it's not my best model. It's probably not my best model. That's definitely not my best model.
Yeah.
But it probably means the most to me compared to the others. Space Marines I've painted recently are much better technically, but this one means a lot to me just because of its history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, being an award-winning painter, you choose to paint armies, right? You don't choose to paint. You could... And this is the style of painter as well. You you said, you're painting stuff you like. You paint for fun. You're painting armies because that's what you like to do. Some people like to paint the one-off models to enter painting tournaments, to essentially challenge themselves and win awards. And there's no reason why you couldn't eventually do that, except for the fact that this is the way you like to paint. I'm the same. I like to paint armies.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily paint to enter painting comps.
Exactly,
I could probably do it on a single model and spend like months and months on one model and work on my glazing a bit more than I otherwise would, and do crisper edge highlights. I wouldn't be able to do it on stream, but
yeah,
it all sort of goes hand in hand.
You need a real level of focus and like commitment to improvement, and not accepting anything less than the best to kind of really push yourself to that level, I think. And these amazing painters that you see on Instagram and winning golden demons and European trophies and that kind of thing, they spend a year painting a model, 6 months painting a model, and that's their craft, and they're absolutely amazing at it. I think I just lack that kind of I lack the drive to do that. I don't really want to do it. And also, I like to finish models.
Yep.
I like to move on to the next thing. I like to have collections of models as well. And I've got, so much respect for those people that can spend that amount of time on a model, because it's just, sheer willpower and like force of will to get through and, be that committed to a single miniature. I find that really impressive, but it's just not the way I paint, and it's not the way I'd enjoy to paint, really.
And those guys that paint like that, I bet you at some stages they sit there and have this conversation with their award-winning painting mates, and they're like,
Perhaps,
there's guys out there painting amazing-looking high elves to extremely high standards. I wish I had the willpower to paint an entire army to that standard. Almost guarantee it. They'd be saying the same thing. It's just the same thing on the different side of the leaf.
I think you touched on it earlier. It's where you find the most enjoyment. Like you guys enjoy, like you said, Kieran, having a finished collection, having a finished army.
Yeah.
Justin's the same. I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate. But then there would be other people that would love to focus on a model until it's perfect.
Yeah.
And there's something that Justin talks about, like painting to completion.
Well, I got that from this guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've got the two best people in the area to talk about it. Painting to completion, not, what is it, perfection?
Yeah, paint to completion, not to perfection. And that doesn't mean not to paint your stuff to a higher standard.
Yeah.
But it just means, you don't always get caught up on some areas that don't exactly work out the way you want. You can work on that on the next model.
On the next one, yeah.
Like if you're content with it, it's all right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as you're trying every time to be better. Like, just improve, incrementally. You don't have to push yourself to perfection, the first time. And, like, nobody achieves perfection. Like, all of my models... None of my models...
Fulgrim.
Sorry?
Except Fulgrim.
Yeah, true. But none of my models would, win awards because there are errors on them. But I'm very happy with my models. And, I'm, very proud of them. That's why I share them. I enjoy painting.
Yeah.
And I enjoy, the community and, the sharing aspect of the hobby. So everyone has their own focus. And, it depends how you get into the hobby. It depends on your influences. Some people read Old White Dwarfs and were really, really inspired by the Golden Demon entries. And some people love the, battle reports and display photos of large armies.
Yep.
So, everyone, there's plenty of space in the hobby for many, many different approaches to painting and to the hobby in general, So it's just about finding your niche and just doing what you enjoy, and I suppose not forcing yourself to do something that you don't enjoy. Obviously, if you don't enjoy painting but you want to improve, then, you can push yourself a little bit. But if it's really not something that you enjoy, maybe it's not for you.
Yep.
You just got to find what you love, and then it becomes easy. Yeah.
Kieran's found that, and I've found that as well.
Yeah. I love the story of that dragon, like the Prince Emmerich model. That's the fact that it's like 22 years ago you got that model. I think it was Maddie's Minis. Someone asked him, or like when people ask me how long I took to paint his latest model. I think he was doing like an apothecary or something.
A Terminator.
Like that.
I think it was a Terminator model.
Yeah. And he was like, however long he'd been painting for, 32 years, was it? Or something like that? Yeah. How long did it take you to paint that model? He's like 32 years.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, awesome.
I love that sentiment.
It's just that thing. The newer community just get caught up on, and it is difficult said it a bunch of times, getting on IG and you just get fed all these amazing painters, and you're just like,
Yeah.
it can be a little bit depressing sometimes. You see their stuff, you're like, oh my God, it's so fantastic. But Maddie's Minis hit it on the head when he was like, it took me 32 years to paint this one Terminator. It just is. It's all that work leading up.
Yeah.
It's like little Kieran not touching his dragon, and then
Yep.
years later.
I'm curious. So, did you? Because obviously you've had the model 22 years.
Yeah.
Did you know there was going to be some iteration of fantasy coming back? Like in your heart, were you like, "There's going to be some fantasy coming back"?
No.
He chats to GW.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only reason he held it
Yeah.
for these many years.
Yeah. No. I just held on to it. Just for nostalgia. Like I just love the model. I think it's one of the few models in the high elf range that kind of still holds up. The dragon's a bit goofy, but Prince Imric himself is still a fantastic model. Some of those old metal sculpts are really, really nice. But yeah, no, I just hung on to it purely for nostalgia reasons. I wouldn't want to get rid of that model because the chance to get it again would be very slim or very, very expensive on eBay. So, as those models kind of went out of sale, went offline, then, I suppose their value goes up. And I'm not holding them to sell them. I'm holding them because I love the models and potentially one day I'd want to paint it.
We're not going to see the high elves on eBay?
No. I think I could make a pretty penny at the moment. The old world models that aren't available that are on eBay are selling for ridiculous amounts, but insane.
I bought that Island of Blood and I gave my high elves to one of my friends.
Yeah, nice.
I was just like, here you go.
Yeah,
I think he was wanting to make the blood knights from the vampires out of the horses.
Out of the reapers, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And then I don't think he ended up using them, so maybe I could get it back off him.
Oh, mate, you can make a fortune.
I'll just give them to you.
Yeah. I'd love that, yeah. But
I'll see. I'll message you.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, I actually bought my Island of Blood when I visited Warhammer World back in 2011. So, I got UK prices, which is, 40% less
Pretty
than Aussie prices,
Yeah.
and got like VAT on it going through the airport. So it was an absolute steal. And I'd had it sitting in the box until, I'd taken a couple of models off the sprue, but pretty had most of it like still fresh on sprue until, they announced that the Old World was coming back, and then I started clipping them up and cleaning them up and painting them. So been hanging on to them for a long time. Yeah.
Crazy. That's so crazy.
Long-term investment, I suppose. Yeah.
We were just like, yes, I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't so much a case of vindication where, it was more just about, excitement that it was coming back because, there's the excitement of it, but there's also, like, oh, damn, I'm going to have to paint these really detailed models now.
Yeah.
But, of course, super keen for it to come back. Yeah, absolutely. It was my first Warhammer game, my first Games Workshop game, fantasy, so.
Because you're pretty active in the gaming side of HH for Horus Heresy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I wouldn't say you like gaming heaps, but
quite
often I see you putting photos up on your IG of...
That's the game I usually play.
Yeah. Are you going to do the same with Old World?
I intend to, yeah. I've got some spaces ordered for my Warriors of Chaos because I've still got my 3,000 points of Warriors of Chaos from Fantasy 8th Edition.
Yeah. The army that inspired me.
Yeah.
That was it.
The one we talked about last time.
Yep.
So when they arrive and I get them the base is done, I'll be able to play some games as soon as I can find people that are ready to play. But I don't know if it probably won't become my main game. I think Heresy will still remain my main game. But it'll just, depend how much I enjoy it, really. I think I really enjoy playing in the Heresy community and at Heresy events. It's kind of my kind of style. It depends what kind of, character and, fantasy or old world events take on. If it's a hyper competitive kind of environment, I'll probably be less interested. If it's a bit more casual, and of course, playing mates at the club is, as casual as you want it to be or as competitive as you want it to be. But as far as events are concerned, I'll definitely go and I'll definitely try them out. But long term, it'll just be, dependent on how I enjoy the community and, how much enjoyment I get from it. But I'll always be painting the models because, I love, painting's far more important to me than playing.
Yep.
So, obviously playing is rewarding with your models, but painting's, more important to me. So regardless of whether the community is a community that I really enjoy, I'll be painting. But I'm confident that it will be something that I'll be getting into and that I'll enjoy. And I know it'll have a massive uptake. It'll probably be, much bigger than Heresy in no time. So being able to find an old world game will probably be fairly easy. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to playing some games, and with the Warriors of Chaos to start with, and then with the High Elves once I get them done. But that could be quite a way off with how long it's taking me to paint the models. But I'm one of the fortunate ones that I've still got a fantasy army, so I'm good to go as soon as it's as soon as I want.
Didn't burn your army?
No, I didn't burn it. No, I could have done that for the internet clout, but no, I was very, very disappointed and upset when the game changed and went away. But I was never tempted to burn all those hours of painting.
No way. No.
Yeah.
After the disappointment of Fantasy ending, is Old World is that a suitable replacement in your eyes so far?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely. Because the biggest loss for me personally was the loss of the background and the fluff and the armies and the models and that kind of thing. So having the game back is really important because it gives life to those elements, and it helps create a community around those elements. But just having it back as a setting that's supported by Games Workshop, that's spoken about, that's focused on, it's really important to me, and I really, really enjoy it because before I got into 40k or the Horus Heresy, I was into fantasy, so been a long-term fan. So it's absolutely fantastic to have it back, and things will change. I'm sure they'll change little bits of the fluff to make new kind of aspects of the lore, or maybe just explore other elements that haven't been properly explored yet. Like a lot of people are expecting, Cathay or Kislev to be expanded upon the way they have been in the Total War games. But essentially, it's still the same world with, still the same kind of ideas. So, yeah, I'm really, really happy to have it back. It's, something that I really love. So it's great to have it returning.
So good.
Yeah.
Are you aware of other players in the Horus Heresy community or the wider Warhammer community that you're in contact with putting together fantasy armies that they've held on to? Absolutely.
I think there's a very kind of strong crossover between people who enjoy the Horus Heresy and people who enjoy the Old World fantasy, because a lot of people went into the Horus Heresy because they were kind of a little bit disillusioned with 40k at the time. Fantasy was no longer available to play, and the Horus Heresy was an option, so they went into that. And there's also, old grognards like myself, I suppose. It's strange to think of myself as a grognard, but I definitely am. People who, been in the hobby.
What's that term?
Grognard. It's just like, a grumpy old dude who's been in the heresy, in the hobby for a long time, Yeah.
That is the first time I've heard of that term.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the last adjectives I'd use for you, mate.
I know.
Grumpy old dude.
I don't feel like I'm a grognard, but I think some of my behaviour is definitely grognardy. Like my love for the old games.
I'm definitely a grognard outside the hobby.
Yeah. But I think there's definitely a strong crossover between people who play the Horus Heresy and play fantasy. Like some of my close heresy friends never played it and weren't interested in it because they were purely 40k and then came across to the heresy. But a lot of people in my gaming group and at the club that I play at, played both games. So I think it'll be great to get them back on board with it. And they've stayed in the hobby through the Horus Heresy, so they're still painting, they're still playing Games Workshop games, they're still up with what's happening. So they're across the heresy as well. So it'd be great to get those people back, and it'll be great to return myself. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when it comes to gaming systems, I think we touched on a little bit of the ranking up where you're grouping a lot of the infantry together on movement tiles.
Yep.
How do the rules differ? Is there any what are sort of your main differences in rules?
I've got one before Kieran starts because it's probably the only one I know about.
Yeah.
And that's the cannons and the like ballistas and that type of stuff firing straight lines through ranks. Is that a thing? Like it goes all the way through?
That's true for cannons and bolt throwers.
Yeah.
Something like obviously a trebuchet is a template and catapult's a template and that kind of thing. But yeah, like a bolt thrower or a cannon does go straight through. Yeah.
Very cool. And the other thing I knew about is if you flank dudes, hit them in the sides, you do more damage.
I think you get in the new edition now, you get an extra like initiative bonus on the charge and extra combat resolution. that kind of thing, and you break their ranks so they don't get their combat resolution. So yeah, there's definitely bonuses to flanking units or charging units in the rear.
Yeah. So fantasy, old world fantasy, each individual unit had a separate initiative. So high elves were naturally faster than humans.
Yeah.
So even if you charged if humans charged you front on, elves, you would still probably strike before them in combat.
Depends on the edition. Older editions, it was if you charged, you went first regardless, and then in subsequent turns, it was down to initiative.
Yeah.
And then it went to initiative. So units that had the higher initiative would go first regardless of charging. And now in the old world, there's a large initiative bonus for charging. So it's not automatic that you'll go first if you charge, but 90% of the time you will go first. So charging is really important. I think movement is really important in all Warhammer games.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Age of Sigmar or 40k these days, but I'm assuming it's very important.
Yeah, it's still very big. When I played Age of Sigmar, there was a screening element to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not necessarily moving your models to get into combat.
Yeah.
But you would move models to cut other units off in Age of Sigmar. But yeah, 40k very important. Objective-based game.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of those elements are turned up in the old world or fantasy. They're even more important because moving a regiment is, you don't have 360-degree kind of movement. It costs movement to turn your unit, it costs movement to move backwards or sideways. You're far more limited in the movement you can do. So the way you use movement is far more important to get those flank charges or make sure that your units are charging the units you want to charge. And you just spoke about screening. Screening's far more important in fantasy because the way you angle units, you can force enemy units to charge and then they have to turn their unit to be flush with your unit, exposing their flank. So screening and moving is even more important in the old world. It's, people talk about, what's the most deadly unit and who puts out the most damage and that, but essentially like movement is the key element to that kind of game. Yeah.
So in fantasy, what was the objective of winning the game? Was it like now with 40k where there's like objective circles on the board and you had to hold those objectives, or was it straight remove your opponent?
Generally, it was straight remove your opponent. You would score the victory points for models killed, and you'd score half a victory point, half the unit's worth if you killed half the unit. The enemy's general and battle standard would be worth additional points. If you ran a unit down and captured their banner, it would be additional points. But there were games and scenarios that had alternative victory conditions, such as the infamous Watchtower mission. It was whoever held the Watchtower in the middle of the board at the end of the game won the game. And a lot of events had their own kind of takes on missions and added more kind of objective-based missions because there weren't many objective-based or, if any, kind of missions in the actual rulebook.
Do you think that's something they might introduce? Have you had a peruse over the rules or any of the
I've been reading the rules. I haven't checked out the objectives. I know Watchtower has changed. It's not an automatic victory for whoever controls it now. It's just I think it's 200 bonus points. So that's significant, but not like major. If you consider a unit of high elves is probably 200 to 300 points. So it's important, but it's hard to have purely objective games in a game like Fantasy or the Old World because movement's not as free as 40k. There aren't transports. You can't zoom around in a rhino or a falcon or capture objectives. A lot of cavalry is still fast, of course, and flyers are still fast, but a lot of infantry is quite slow. And for some armies like dwarves, they're very slow. Apart from particular units like gyrocopters or gyro bombers. And they're not the kind of units that would be capturing objectives anyway. So games need to have a slightly different focus to 30k or 40k, purely based on the gameplay of the armies. And you could imagine if there was a central objective, you could just dump a giant unit of infantry on there, and the game would be quite boring.
Yep.
So there are alternative kind of victory conditions in those games to kind of better suit the style of the game. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
What type of length are the fantasy games traditionally? Like
hours wise?
Yeah, hours wise. Like, is it?
Slower. Like they're more kind of involved games generally, so they'll be slower than a 40k game. Depending on the points, they're also often played at a higher points level than 40k.
Are you saying 3,000 points is common?
Oh, I said
about 2,000 points. 2,000. But I think, I don't know, like I don't play Age of Sigmar or 40k, so I can't really speak to the speed of those games these days. But I think it would be fairly similar to the Heresy, although I feel like in the Old World now there's less opportunity for quick games, so it's unlikely that anyone will be tabled quickly the way you can in some of those other games. So
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that the game is longer, it's more that most games will go the distance or close to the distance, I think. So games will go longer because, you know, you get to play your full amount of turns, essentially.
Which almost that in itself removes an element of the uber competitive scene.
Yeah.
Because the uber competitive guys don't want to be hanging around for 4 hours playing games.
The short attention span.
No,
I don't want to be calling guys out. But
yeah.
I think they limit 3 hour games in most competitive scenes, something around that.
Yeah.
So,
but like, to be fair to those gamers, fantasy.
We don't need to be fair to those guys.
Fantasy,
we're painters over here, mate. We can pick on them if we want.
Fantasy before it died was a highly competitive game, probably more so even than 40k.
Right.
So, you know, we'll see how it goes this time around. But you know, those players keep the game alive, but they also make it less welcoming for new players. So, you know, you need those kind of players to push the game on, but it's about getting the balance between more casual players and competitive players because, you know, obviously more casual players are more welcoming generally to newer players, which is really important, especially for a new game or a game that's being relaunched. But there'll definitely be a highly competitive scene, that's for sure. Yeah, it's not going to be just a beer and pretzels game. You know, it's not going to be just dudes playing in their shed. It's going to be quite a competitive scene, I imagine. But hopefully there'll be, you know, a broader breadth of, you know, different styles of games and players. So hopefully anyone interested in, you know, getting started will find the gaming group that is appropriate to them.
Yeah.
Because,
hopefully the guys that are competitive can sort of reflect inwards and still be welcoming. Yeah. There's no reason why you can't be a competitive gamer and also be welcoming.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, if you're attending a competitive tournament, expect to play competitive people.
Yep.
You know, if it's a game at the club, you know, it just really comes down to the personality of the other person. And, you know, obviously I'm not going to tell people how to play their games, but I would suggest that maybe in those kind of casual kind of social settings, maybe just tone it down a little bit and play for fun, maybe.
Yeah. No, definitely. No. It's something that's pretty close to my heart is people picking the right situation to play the right lists.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
It's not always like the need to play your uber competitive list in the casual setting against a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Just, you know, back that off a little bit. If it's their first couple of games, then
yeah.
Give them a hand with the rules, you know, remind them. You don't have to tell them, hey, this is what you should be doing, but just be like, hey, have you got any abilities or special rules that you could maybe use here? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And then they can look it up themselves because then it'd be easier for that type of stuff.
Like the internet's definitely kind of proliferated that more kind of competitive aspect because people see what other people are playing with and what's successful at different events and, you know, that kind of thing. And it's made it more competitive in that regard. Like there's always been competitive people in the scene, but it's definitely kind of sped up with the internet. But
you also see those net lists getting used by people that don't know how to use the net list.
And but you know, people getting, like I said before, that people getting into the scene maybe don't want to play as competitive, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you know, will go onto a forum or Facebook or whatever and say, "What's the best unit?" You know. And that's a pretty irritating question because, you know, just paint what you think you can paint. Like, you know, choose an army that you're going to finish and play games with. But at the same time, like, people don't want to waste their money. They want to win games. People are naturally competitive. So there's always going to be, you know, people who want to win. Well, everybody wants to win, don't they? But
for me, it doesn't even matter what's competitive because it's going to take me 4 months to finish it anyway, and by then it's probably no longer the competitive.
Yeah, it's
unit.
it's a difficult matrix of the
Yes,
models
I
you
painted
enjoy.
I painted all my Inceptors, and now they're worth more points.
You got to get the the right Venn diagram of models you enjoy, models that are easy or fun to paint, and models that are good. So you just got to find your balance. What's most important to you, and I generally kind of try and get a balance between all of those three, and it's generally kind of weighted more towards the models that I enjoy or that I think fit with the army that I'm collecting. A fluffy list.
Yep.
I play to win. I play hard, but when I'm building an army, I try to build an army that I think is representative of the faction that I'm collecting. For
Yep.
sure. Yeah.
That's why I do it too.
Yeah.
Sort of lore accurate type army.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, fantastic. I think it's interesting. I wonder, you saying that the fantasy scene was kind of on the competitive side of things originally.
Yeah.
I wonder how that's going to be represented when sort of Old World sort of really kicks off. If the competitive side of it is going to grow really quickly, because there will be guys that have that nostalgia of they enjoyed it for the competitive side, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will take off very quickly, and I'm sure there'll be competitive events very soon. I think that'll be a big part of the Old World community. It'll take a while to be established. Like obviously, 40k is a far more established game that's been around a lot longer and has had a lot more focus on it recently. So it'll take a while for it to build up that kind of competitive scene. But there'll definitely be competitive elements to fantasy. Yeah, for sure.
Going back to the rules of Old World or fantasy, is there such a thing where you've got the units in a movement tray, say a unit of 10, for example, the Sea Guard?
Yeah.
Is there a motion where you actually have to pin one corner of the movement tray to turn them? Is that how you perform a turn or a pivot?
Yeah, that's a wheel.
That's a wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually a moving. Is that one movement cost, is it, to just perform that?
So you just
This is going to get complicated.
yeah. Like if you pivot,
this is the thing I could never.
If you pivot a unit, you just measure the how far the outside model that's swinging around the pivot moves.
Pi
that's
r,
just part
pi
of
r
your
squared
movement.
or something like that, is it?
No. There's no maths.
Yeah,
there's no maths. You just get your tape measure out.
Yeah,
and that's just part of your movement. But obviously, it's not like 40k where your model can move in a 360 degrees movement. Because the whole unit has to move together. So
yeah.
If you
there's almost no way a unit.
If you want to turn 90 degrees and move, you're going to have no movement left.
Yeah.
So there are other things you can perform, like a reform. So you can reform your unit to face a different direction and then move. But there's a whole that'll complicate things because you need to redress your ranks and you're going to be in a different kind of formation and essentially like movement and especially deployment is really important because ideally you don't want to be wheeling or moving your units any other direction than forwards.
Yeah.
So, you have to set yourself up as well as you can for the game ahead. Like, obviously, if you're having to move your units that much, it means usually that your opponent's outmaneuvered you or you've deployed poorly and you have to move around terrain or one of your other units. So,
Wow.
You got to plan ahead and...
That's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your movement choices can really expose you quite easily.
Yeah.
It's the same for every other sort of system, but more pronounced.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's almost
in Old World.
It's almost less forgiving, like in 40k or something where you can just move back under cover or something like that. There's no moving back into cover in those situations really. Like
no, and there's no downside to being charged in the rear or the side in 40k.
Yeah, not anymore.
You get charged in the back and you just form up. It's a new combat. Whereas in fantasy, it really matters where you get charged because, you might have a unit that's 15 models, 3 ranks of 5. And if you get charged in the side, you've only got 3 models in contact that can fight. And if they die, they can't fight. Your unit can't fight. So it really matters, unit facing and, maneuvering.
what are the boards like as opposed to like a standard 40k? Is it the terrain wise? Is
less terrain? I think they're kind of pushing for a little bit more terrain these days, but it's still less than 40k for sure.
Yeah.
Much less, yeah.
Well, 40k has been upped in more recent editions.
Yeah.
They're like, no, people have been playing with too little.
Yeah, I think lots of terrain is really important for those games that rely a lot on shooting, whereas Old World and the fantasy shooting is toned right down. So if you come across from 40k or 30k and expect to like blow armies off the table with a shooting army. It won't happen to the same degree. You can still build very kind of dangerous lists with lots of artillery, cannons, and catapults and that kind of thing, but it's definitely the balance is far more in favour of combat in the old world. Whereas I don't know about 40k, but 30k is definitely a shooting game. If you take a shooting army against a combat army, the shooting army will win most of the time. Whereas in fantasy, it's a lot more about balanced armies, or even armies that kind of do well in combat through either combat resolution or killing enemy models. So yeah, it's far more about units grinding together, pushing each other back, and then running them down. Whereas 40k or 30k is about manoeuvring to get your line of sight for your last cannon team or whatever.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
What have you got next for the High Elves?
Well,
finishing the Sea
hopefully
Guard,
the Sea Guard will be done in the next few days, and then I'll paint a Space Marine, like I said.
Yeah, just a palette cleanse.
Yeah, to palette cleanse a little bit, and then I'll have to decide what to work on next. I've got a few options. I've got some Shadow Warriors I could do. I've got the Reaver Riders from the Island of Blood I could paint up. I've got some archers I want to try as well. But my supply.
Have you got the Prince on the Griffin?
I do have him.
I love that model.
I do have him. Yeah, I'm not sure if I suppose I'll paint him up at some stage, but no plan to get onto him straight away. But obviously what I paint for the High Elves is limited by what I have in my bits box at this stage. So I've still got plenty of models, but I need a lot of cleaning up, which will take a bit of time and is quite annoying. So it'll be what I can be bothered doing at this stage before Games Workshop makes it easier to get into those armies. But I'll probably do a few more High Elves and then go back and do some more of the Death Guard, try and finish that project off and then go back to the High Elves again. So just be bouncing around a bit as, as the fancy takes me. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any models from the High Elf collection that you don't have in your possession?
Oh, lots. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have a lot of the newer kind of things from 8th edition or 7th edition. So I don't have any of the plastic White Lions or the plastic Phoenix Guard or the plastic Dragon Princes. There's quite a bit of stuff I don't have. I've got a lot of the kind of older models, I suppose. And, I painted up one chariot, but, I can't buy any more chariots until they come back in. So, yeah, I'd definitely love to get my hands on some of the plastic Phoenix Guard or some of the plastic Dragon Princes. But, there's definitely, scope for me to expand on what I have and get new things to paint. But, it's a bit of a waiting game at the moment.
Yeah. Is there a particular model you'd like? Hopefully they redo that you'd love to see for the High Elves.
There's a lot. So
anything,
yeah. I'd love to get some of the Dragon Princes. I'd love to paint some of those up. I never painted up the plastic ones. I painted up a couple of the old metal plastic ones. And to be honest, like I actually prefer those older aesthetic kind of Dragon Princes to the new plastic ones. But I'd like to paint up some of the new plastic ones still. Like to paint up some of the High Elf Nobles, the High Elf Lord on horse and the Battle Standard Bearer. They were newer kind of models. I think they were 7th edition. And I really like those models. They were a bit of a higher standard than some of the other plastics. So I definitely like to get some of those when they're available. They're completely, out of stock for many, many years now. So they're very expensive on eBay if you want them. So I'd love to paint some of those, yeah. Probably got enough mages, but you can never have enough wizards, so probably paint more at some stage.
Yeah. Hopefully we see them. I'm excited to see sort of how the releases come out, how they space them, how regular they are.
Yeah.
They look like they're going to be pretty consistent by how fast they release the goblins.
Hopefully.
And the orcs. That was maybe only 2 weeks after.
It was on release day, 2 weeks after pre-orders. I think their main issue is just keeping stock in stock, isn't it? Like, doesn't matter how quickly you release things if you can't buy them. So
yeah,
and I think that's a problem with a lot of their ranges at the moment. So yeah, that'll be a challenge, regardless of how quickly they release the armies. Although getting the books, the army specific books, regardless of whether the models are available, is still a massive thing as well. So even if I couldn't buy any new High Elves straight away, I'd just still have to have the book. Yeah. Regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that Games Workshop are operating lately is sort of almost the golden era of hobby. Like, it's never been better. but they are struggling to keep
Supply.
up
Yeah.
with the supply. Like the Dark Angels Deathwing box, even though the Deathwing Knights didn't have fantastic rules, just sold out. So hard to get in Australia.
So strange as well. Like, I suppose like they're bigger than they've ever been. They're trying to support more games than they ever have and more, model kits than they ever have. But it's just like, it's pretty much like just printing money, isn't it? Like,
Yep.
you'd think that, I don't know. Like, I'm not in logistics. I don't understand that kind of side of it. But you'd think that
Just send more stuff to Australia. You're making more money on it.
Just make more.
You're making more money on it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's someone high up in GW just yelling at the factories, going, "We need more models."
Yeah,
But
yeah,
all those things take. There's always a lag, and
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's better to be undersupplied for supply and demand type of thing. Keeps the hype going.
Definitely. Like, I suppose, they could be making more money, but it's not like they're struggling. So
No.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure they're happy.
They definitely oversupplied with those paint pots, that's for sure,
yeah.
because they're still using them. Games Workshop, get rid of those pots, please.
Which pots?
The paint pots, the Citadel paint pots. They've obviously had heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of them made.
But you want like dropper bottles?
For sure.
Yeah.
The day Citadel come out with dropper bottles and they're just like, there'll be an ad and it'll just be like, this is the new big thing. No one else is doing it. It'll be like, people have been doing dropper bottles for years. and they'll just make out like they're the best guys in the world and just be like, this is just something people have been asking for years. But yeah, stop using them. Stop printing those paint pots.
Yeah. They're better than they used to be with the screw tops, but
It's still
dropper
not great.
bottles. Yeah.
So we've got something a little different for today's podcast.
I'm sitting in the middle.
Yes, that's the big change. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, everyone. That's it. No. We got reached out on the Battleforge Gaming Podcast Instagram to see if there was any sort of questions people would like answered. So we've got a bit of a Q&A section coming up. So a massive thank you for those that submitted some questions to the Instagram page. We've got some pretty good ones. First, this one's from MZ's Brushstroke Battalions, and we'll get a little display on the edited version so people can see the podcast.
Imsy's in
Shout
chat.
out to Imzy. Yeah, Imzy's a good dude.
I think Imsy's in the chat right now.
He's got a beautiful Blood Angels army. Yeah, probably does. Yeah.
Oh, Blood Angels. Now we're talking.
No, Imzy's a top guy. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So MZ's got a great question for you, Kieran.
Damn.
Sorry, mate. Not about Blood Angels.
Thanks, Imzy.
I'll go get a drink.
Yeah. So question for Kieran. Is Heresy 2.0 better than 1.0?
That's a great question.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
what's,
wild
what,
guess.
what is... I have no clue. What's Heresy 2.0 and what's Heresy 1.0? The
So-
C editions?
Yeah, the new Heresy first edition, which was 2014 or whatever, and the new one, which came out 2 years ago. So, Heresy 2 or HH2 or however you want to call it. I think it is a better game. I think it felt like it was quite rushed in the way it was produced. So it does have a lot of issues that require FAQs and erratas to be kind of ironed out. But in general, I think it's a better game. It just has more bugs, I suppose.
So it was rushed in the way that there was 5 years between it.
Did they add? Did they add stuff though? So there's more bugs because they've added more.
Yes.
More rules. So
Yeah. So I think they definitely kind of added more than they took away. So it is more complicated now, but I think it's a better game. I really enjoy reactions and the way things work now. There are some issues though. Like flyers are in a really bad state. We've only had a couple of FAQs. They're very slow with the FAQs for the Horus Heresy, unfortunately. It is a game run by Specialist Games, so it's not run by the main kind of Games Workshop studio, so they don't have the resources. Even so, it's a bit poor. It's
are you saying they could potentially hire you to help them out with their rules? Is that something Games Workshop? Speak to Kieran. Message him on the IG.
He's already talking to them.
Yeah, I do email them about things I think need to be changed, but there are definitely kind of people that are smarter and more in touch with the game than I am to to handle those things. But there are some things that seem quite common sense that haven't been addressed. But yeah, in general, I think it is a better game. It's a funner game. It just has more issues. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit buggy, but overall better.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
There you go. Thanks, Imsy.
Yeah.
2.0.
Imsy never had the pleasure of playing first edition. I think he's a new Heresy player, but he's fully embraced it, and he's got 3,000 plus points of Blood Angels now. I played him at the last event I went to and had a great time. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Top bloke.
Fantastic. Next one's coming from Dame Duty Dench, and that's so with starter
Big fan.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm pronouncing these correctly, but we'll see how we go. With starter kits going for nearly $500 for one army, do you guys prefer the re-releases of the Old World versus going into Age of Sigmar? So if you were a new player, this is, I guess, for both of you.
I'll take this one.
You can start, yeah.
I'll start with it. There's different gaming systems. So you really need to look at which one is going to appeal to you more. And after listening to everything Kieran's had to say to it, about it, I think it gives you a pretty good idea of the differences. Age of Sigmar is probably a little more simple to learn the rule set. Whereas if you're wanting that intricate, sort of more in-depth, slightly more tactical game system, then Old World is probably the one you're looking at. You're not going to get models that are as good or as new, as dynamic. It would really come down to, can you deal with the older models and paying the price you're paying for them, for me? Do you want that Skeleton Warrior, the horses that look the way they do, paying the exact same price you would if you were buying the new sort of Soulblight stuff? So, like, there's Skeleton Warriors in there that are absolutely fantastic compared to the Skeleton Warriors. And that's a painting thing for me, really. But I think you just pick via the rule set you want to play. And the real in-depth rule set of Old World can be amazing. Like, I think you can create your own characters with relics and all that type of stuff and buff units. Whereas Age of Sigmar, you've got one hero that does one thing.
Yeah, each army has 20 different magic items on top of the 40 generic, 50 magic items that are in the main rulebook. So there are so many different options in fantasy, and each character has, for example, like the High Elf Prince has like 4 different weapon options, 3 different armor options, 6 different mount options, and then all of those magic items, and then honors. So there's a lot of, customization in the rules. But if the question was about models specifically, Age of Sigmar has better models than Fantasy, for sure. Like, there are some new Fantasy models, like the new Bretonnian Lord on Pegasus and the new Bretonnian Damsel on Unicorn, that are absolutely fantastic and that are up there with Age of Sigmar models. But in general, the models are much older, so the models aren't as good.
Yep.
A lot of people do like that old nostalgic style. For me personally, the Age of Sigmar models are just much better. The Age of Sigmar models are probably some of the best models that Games Workshop produces for any of their games.
Oh, no. Without a doubt. The best.
So
the best.
My approach would be to collect a fantasy army, an Old World fantasy army, but one of the legacy armies that aren't being kind of supported in the main line of releases for the Old World at the moment. So I'd collect something like, Lizard Man or...
Chaos Warriors.
Yeah, well,
Skaven.
Chaos Warriors, exactly. They are one of the mainline armies, but they do have that new range of AOS models or, undead, like the Vampire Counts, or, you just use the Soulblight models and the Flesh Eater Courts, I think they're called now, and the, I don't even know what the Ghost faction is in. Nighthaunt. Yeah, perfect. They're just Vampire Count models on round bases. So if I was, choosing an army based on models, based on the game, I'd choose Old World game and I'd choose AOS models and put them on square bases. So
pick both.
Yeah. Have the best of both worlds.
Play undead, like, looking at that new in my head he's a Strigoi Vampire Lord.
Ushron.
Yeah, that guy, the Flesh Eater Courts dude. I would just use him on a square base. I'd call him like a vampire count on a zombie dragon, or a Strigoi Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist.
Yeah.
And just play on. Like, it's a big vampire model. It makes sense that he'd be able to fly around. Like, yeah, perfect. Like, amazing models and then great rule set.
Do you think
play games?
Do you think you have any?
Sorry to interrupt. You can also get some really cool vampire lords from like the underworld warbands, which you could use. So
I think vampires, undead probably have the best
crossover
and model range, full stop, for an army that's represented in the old world at the moment. Yeah, Lizardman or Seraphon are up there as well. Great models. Might be a little bit harder to fit on the square bases because they're massive and they're very dynamic, but for the undead at least,
Croxagores, oh my god, that'd be so good.
So good, yeah. For the undead at least, like perfect switch, like crossover, easy to fit on the right bases, beautiful models, yeah.
With doing that, picking sort of a crossover, an army that can fit into both worlds, do you think the players are going to have any issues if they take it to tournaments and things like that?
No.
Are you using them on the square bases?
So you probably won't be able to go to Age of Sigmar.
Yeah,
if they're on square
of
bases.
course, yeah.
Yeah, you won't be able to cross that.
But as far as like old world events are concerned, Games Workshop has said that they won't allow the legacy factions at their tournaments, which caused a great kind of frucker in the community, because some of these armies are some of the most popular armies, like Skaven, Undead, Dark Elves, all really, really popular armies with big, support bases. And Games Workshop said that those armies aren't welcome at their old world events.
So
but I'm sure that 99.9% of any event that's not a Games Workshop event will completely, embrace those armies and you'll be able to play. So as long as you're not playing at Warhammer World, you're fine.
So the legacy armies, they've re-released rules.
They've all got PDF rules now that are being play tested to the same level as the mainline factions.
My question
that were
is,
played together. They just won't get further rules from now.
My question is, if they never want them to be played, why release the rules? And I guess it's just because they want to sell more models. So you're going to sell the models, people can play with them in a casual scene, but when you go to a official Games Workshop tournament, you can't use them. Which for me, and I'm having a few issues with Games Workshop and my codex on my phone, and they're not recognizing us. So I'm pretty pro Games Workshop, but sort your shit out. Like, don't be doing that type of stuff. Seriously, like, why would you release rules and then be like, nah, you can't play that anyway? Well, you can buy our models, you can paint them up and put them on square bases, but you can't play with it.
I think if they hadn't released rules for those armies, like, the outrage in the community would have been even greater than or equal to the end of Fantasy and the introduction of Age of Sigmar. So, like, I feel like...
Are we talking burn models?
Burn your armies. Like, I feel like they had to do it.
Get them out of the bin, reburn them.
They had to do it. And, of course, they will sell, they will sell more models because people will still play those armies. And it was, you can look at Games Workshop with your cynical, like, corporation commercial hat, which is, 99% of the time the right thing to do because that's what they are. But, I suppose perhaps there's also a little bit of fan service to people who have those armies already. So, we're just really happy that we have them. Some people will be disappointed that their army's not, being focused on and won't receive a book anytime soon. But I think those rules are all fantastic. I think there might be some issues with some of them, but I've read through most of them and they seem to be on the same kind of playing field and level as the mainline armies. So they'll be totally fine, totally balanced to play in events. They just won't be allowed at the official Games Workshop event, which is, whatever. Games Workshop's just shooting themselves in the foot in that regard. They just create a lot of bad will towards the community and they'll have less people attending their events.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll still sell out their tickets because they always do.
There's going to be 4 different armies there. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But people can still play those armies. Those armies, ironically, it's easier to collect a legacy army at the moment because they still have models in Age of Sigmar, whereas most of the mainline armies, Bretonians have their models, Tomb Kings have their models, Orcs and Goblins will have some models soon.
Yeah.
Dwarfs have still got a few, but and having said that, like about the Tomb Kings and the Bretonians, they're all out of, out of stock.
All gone. Yeah.
So if you want to pick up a fantasy army right now, go and pick up, an Age of Sigmar Ogre army or an Age of Sigmar Skaven army or an Age of Sigmar Vampire army and, put them on square bases and play the old world. That's the easiest way at the moment.
Did we answer that question? We did.
Yeah, that's right.
Pick your rule set.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
You
you
gave
can
them
make
some
models
options.
work for, you don't have to play old world specific models in the
Yeah.
old world.
Do you think the Cities of Sigmar models you could use as Bretonnians?
No.
Damn.
Yeah, like absolutely. Of course you can. You can do whatever you want in your hobby. It doesn't work for me personally. They don't look like Bretonnians or the Empire, but a lot of people see them like that, and a lot of people want to do that, and that is totally fine. I'll definitely play against those armies. I've got no issue with it. For me personally, they don't fit the aesthetic, so I wouldn't do it. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it for yourself.
Nice.
I might do it.
Fantastic. Next one's coming from Big Cat Miniatures. For someone that's got no experience with Warhammer, is it okay to jump straight into Horus Heresy? Is there any sort of prerequisite before starting Warhammer 30k as opposed to knowing more about Warhammer 40k?
This guy's going to have a better answer than me. Mine's, jump in. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. Like, obviously, Horus Heresy and 30k is a smaller game than 40k, so there are less resources. It's a smaller player base. It might be harder to find games, but no, it's not. I think maybe the rules are probably more complicated as well. So I suppose yes, it is probably more challenging to hop straight into it than to hop into 40k. But there's absolutely no reason that you'd have to do 40k first and then go on to play 30k. Like, you can absolutely just jump straight into it. 30k, the Horus Heresy, is sold at Games Workshop now. You don't have to order stuff from the UK from Forge World anymore. It is more accessible than it has ever been, and it's easier to play than it's ever been. It's probably just not quite as easy as 40k.
I think in terms of the rule set, you tend to have more rules in your core rulebook and less rules on your what would be a data sheet or a battle scroll. Whereas in 40k, you've got a lot of your info on like the models page itself and less in the rulebook. So I almost feel like they're very, very similar. It's just how you personally would absorb the information. Like, are you going to be able to read through a big rule book and absorb a lot of that information, or are you better off with the smaller rule book?
Yeah.
And then having more data on your actual page of your infantry.
That's a good way of looking at it, yeah. I think 40k unit entries are almost like a cheat sheet that you can just play just straight off that unit entry, whereas in 30k, you won't have the weapon kind of profiles on the sheet, and it won't tell you what you need to roll to hit another model or wound another model.
Yep.
You need to look at to hit and to wound chart. But once you've looked at that to hit or to wound chart once or twice, you'll remember it. It's very easy. If something has a higher toughness than your strength, it's usually a 5 to wound it. If it's twice, it's 6. It's very easy. It's just gradient up and down the scale. So it is more complicated than 40k, but it's still eminently approachable, and people can definitely get into it.
Some of the stuff does transfer over. So that to wound roll, it's from memory, it's basically the same in 40k to Horus Heresy. So, but
so it's not a set profile anymore for 40k.
Nah, so it's your strength versus their toughness.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So 40k might be a slightly easier learning curve.
Slightly. I wouldn't say
it shouldn't deter you from.
Look, they're both
Heresy.
complicated games. You got to put time into learning both games.
Yeah.
So it just I think the more important question is, which game will you enjoy the most? Don't choose a game based on whether it's a hard game or an easy game. Choose a game that that you can paint an army of models for. So,
something's going to keep you interested.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely.
Awesome. I think this one's actually about Old World. So, what 3 character models? This is from Painting Minis NS 1990. What 3 character models out of both ranges would you like to paint? That could either be Old World or Horus Heresy, or 40k and Horus Heresy.
So, I mean, we can try and answer both. So I'll start with Old World because I don't know much about it. So I remember some of the models when they transferred over to Age of Sigmar. So for me, the Necrosphinx is always a model I really, really like the look of.
Yep.
So it's this giant marble statue for the Tomb Kings. I don't know how it's powered by magic or something, I'm assuming.
Yeah, incantations and all that stuff.
I never picked up any of the fantasy models, but that model I was always just astounded by. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Another model from Old World. You'd know what his name is. He's got a squid helmet for the dark elf. The dark elves.
Lockyer Fellhart.
Lockyer Fellhart. Yeah. I've always loved that model.
Yeah.
Is he like one of the Corsairs?
He's like, Lord of one of the Corsair, one of the Black Arcs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the Black Ark.
He won't be
Corsairs.
around in...
He's not going to be around?
Probably
Oh,
not.
no, I'm
He'll
out.
be too young. But I've got a feeling they'd probably release the model and just call him like a Dark Elf Lord.
Yeah.
And, they do like, made to order kind of runs with old models. We've seen a few for the Bretonnians and the Tomb King, so I would not be surprised. Actually, no. He's a Dark Elf model. They won't do him. Yeah.
Damn.
No,
Because the other one I liked was
Really nice model.
the Corsairs. The Black Ark Corsairs.
Yeah.
With their little repeater crossbows.
Yeah.
Always liked those models.
Yeah, I think they're still available. They might just be out of stock at the moment.
I won't be picking any up, but I like them.
Yeah, but I don't think Lockyer will be coming back, unfortunately, because he's a Dark Elf. Yeah.
Damn. And then Horus Heresy, I'll just name one unit because it's the Horus Heresy army that I'm sort of thinking of doing. The Dark Furies.
Sick.
For the Raven Guard.
They're really dynamic models. Very cool.
Yeah.
Great poses.
They're the ones I sort of want to get. I was contemplating getting a Mark 6 jump pack box.
Yeah.
And then just using the legs off them just to give them a little bit of extra height, just because they have got that old sort of shorter stature with the older sculpts. But
I feel like you're right, they are smaller, but they were quite large at the time. So I don't think that they're like too small in that regard. And they've
got a big jump pack as well.
They're very dynamic, so they can be, raised up on rocks and that kind of thing as well. So
yeah,
there's a lot of scope to have fun with the Dark Furies for sure.
That's my list of stuff.
Cool.
I think Kieran's sort of almost gone through some of his with the amount of high elves he wants to paint.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I am going to painting the models that I've wanted to always paint. So, just talking about that Strigoi Ghoul King from Age of Sigmar, I'd love to do that.
Just paint up Ushron.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, a bit of a task. He's
that is a
massive.
That's a huge task.
But I reckon with the airbrush we could tear through him pretty quickly. But that's a fantastic model, and it's not a fantasy or an old world model, but could perfectly work as one. But
speaking of him, Reduka the Beast is one I wanted to paint for a long time. So Reduka was from...
Is that the one with the wolf?
Cursed City. He had a wolf. He'd have a wolf pelt, and then there's one where he's sort of ascended and he's transformed into Reduka the Beast, and he's got some little Vicross at his feet. That model, I love that so much. I voted to have that as model of the year one year when it was
those
when
undead
it was made,
models.
and
Sick.
Yeah,
yeah,
love it. Yeah, Reduka the Beast.
I don't know. Trying to think of an old model that I'd like to paint that would return. I don't know. There's some great ones. There's like Azag, who's an orc. If his model comes back, I'd love to paint that up. I'd love to paint another Tyrion. I don't know if he'll come back. He'll probably be an made to order kind of model, kind of showing his age a little bit, but that's a very nostalgic model for me as well. So
Tyrion?
Yeah.
He was like the king or something?
Nah, he's like their greatest hero. Yeah.
Do you think was he on a dragon or anything?
On a horse.
Do you think they'd just have him turn up on foot before he's like sort of proven himself as a hero for those guys?
They definitely could. Like, he didn't have a lot of the war gear and stuff that he has now at the time of that the old world is set, but he was already a great hero at that stage, so he could definitely have rules. He'd have very different rules, and it'd be a very different model. But yeah, he could definitely be in there, or be in the fluff at least. He was traveling around the world performing quests at the time. So yeah, like if he got a new model, I'd be fucking over the moon. Like, any new elf model is always great, but the new Demon Fulgrim is one that I'd really like to paint. So I'll get that at some stage, and I don't know why I'm naming all these massive models that'll take me ages to paint, but maybe because I don't paint them because they're massive, but like, I'd love to paint that model at some stage. His rules are absolutely terrible, and his army's absolutely terrible in the game, but I'll be painting him up regardless because I love Fulgrim and it is an absolutely amazing model.
It is crazy, yeah.
Yeah, definitely Fulgrim for sure.
That model in itself has got me interested to see where they go with the 40k version of him.
Yeah.
Because they will release a, like...
I know. How can it, like... how can
like,
it
that's
compete?
him? That's the same...
I know.
That's the same guy?
It's going to have to be like, I don't know, like some hectic pose or something, but...
Yeah, how do you change that?
How do you improve on perfection? Like, yeah, I don't know. I suppose plastic Fulgrim won't break as much, but like apart from that, like
yeah, well, it's going to be the same model, isn't it? Like that was
what he looks like. But
that was ascended Fulgrim, that sort. Unless they're going even more demonic of appearance.
Yeah, like he's a demon. He can look however the hell he wants. But like, I don't know. Like, I suppose maybe if they bring out, new lore to introduce him in some campaign against the Lion or Gilliman or some new Primarch, maybe they'll change how he looks slightly. But for me, that. Maybe Forge World resin model, that's Fulgrim. Yeah.
Maybe they'll surprise everyone and bring him back just on foot. That's how he's sort of showing himself. It's the old Fulgrim.
Yeah. Well, he's a demon. He can look however he wants. So, yeah, maybe.
So, on that, who is your favourite Primarch and why? This one's from Connor Brooks 5.
Damn, I don't know. Like, it's obviously Fulgrim. But, like, I like nearly all of the Primarchs. There are only a few that I don't really like.
Which ones don't you like? How about that? Because we know which ones don't you like.
All right, so, and it's like I still like them.
You're really breaking people's hearts with this.
Yeah,
one.
look, I find Rogel Dawn boring. He's he's awesome. He's amazing. He does exactly what he's supposed to do.
Build walls.
He's an absolute boss. He's the most loyal. He's all of that, but he's a bit bland.
He's meant to be sort of a little bit like that in the lore, isn't he?
Yeah, that's his thing. That's why he's like incorruptible, because he doesn't have any of the the emotions or weaknesses that the other Primarchs have. That's he is perfect in the way he was made, but it's just a bit boring.
I was listening to a Primarch lore because we knew these questions are coming up, so I'm gonna listen to a little bit of lore, and they were describing how the warp gets in through emotions.
Yeah.
So the ones that were corrupted had a lot of emotional
issues.
So that's why he could never ever. He would have been the last. He would have been the absolute last.
Yep. That's why he was the Praetorian. So yeah, he's perfect. He's just a bit bland.
Yeah. His pose is a bit bland too.
Oh, it's a sick model though. It kind of perfectly represents him, doesn't it? Yeah.
Just bland.
Oh, beautiful. But I don't know. Conrad Kurz is like an absolute shitbag. Like, he's cool. He's kind of like the opposite to Dawn. Like, he's, interesting and exciting, but he's just a dickhead and he's just,
too edgy.
Completely flawed.
Too edgy.
Too what?
Too edgy.
Yeah.
Night Lords are edgy.
Yeah. Yeah, like, he's sick.
That's an interesting one because he was he really emotional, Conrad?
Yeah.
Was he?
He's mental.
Then why wasn't he tainted by the warp as much as the other guys?
He was tainted from the beginning. He's a psycho. Like, he's always had his problems.
Tainted by visions.
Yeah. They went renegade.
I mean, you'd be tainted if you knew how you were gonna end up.
Yeah, but his problem was that he completely believed his visions and just gave into them. Whereas, Sanguinius had visions as well, but he fought against the visions and tried to do the right thing, despite what his visions were telling him. Whereas Conrad just completely went with them and just lost his mind. He was a bad dude from the start, but he wasn't necessarily corrupted by chaos in the way some of the others were. But his legion was renegade before the heresy. They were already about to be hunted down, and then the heresy broke out, and
if you're recruiting criminals into your ranks of Space Marines, it doesn't change who they are. It just makes them superhuman criminals.
Yeah, Perturbabo's
not a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that wasn't even intentional though. They're that wasn't Conrad's plan. That was his legion, because, they had to offer up their children as tribute to the legion and send their sons off to be Space Marines. And they were like, hell no. Because they're all criminals and gangsters on Nostromo. They were like, nah, we'll just send them prisoners. We're going to stay here and be the lords of this world and completely pillage it. And we'll just send off these criminal scum that we don't want. So that just corrupted the legion early on. But
Australians, they sent Australians.
Yeah, it's that sounded like the founding.
That's how we got made.
Convicts, yeah. But no, Perturabo's sweet, but he's also an idiot, just hyper emotional and crazy. But yeah, I don't know, I can't really say that about any Primarch and then say Fulgrim's my favourite because Fulgrim is obviously super emotional as well.
Yeah.
But pre-heresy Fulgrim is my favourite, and then he kind of falls pretty hard. But I've always got a soft spot for Fulgrim. He just had his own emotional issues that made him very kind of vulnerable to chaos, even though he was so perfect in his own way. So yeah, Fulgrim's my favourite, but I like all of the Primarchs. Yeah.
Mine's tough because I don't know enough about any of them. Hence why I started listening to some lore behind them. I'll pick one off how they appear and the one I'd like to paint and the existing model, and it's Corvus. And I know a little bit of lore about Corvus in terms of like him, essentially being invisible whenever he wanted to be invisible and basically being the Batman of 30K, like tactical precision. And I sort of only remember one quote of him, and it was basically he believes he could have defeated any of the Primarchs in battle had he had prior planning, which is so Batman.
Yeah.
But to have that type of confidence is like pretty cool.
Yeah, he almost runs into Angron on his phone and he's like, I could beat anyone, but maybe not Angron. And then he runs away. Yeah, escapes off planet.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what plan you got for Angron. Yeah, that dude's nuts.
Maybe not Angron. Yeah. But all the Primarchs are good, and I think, objectively, Sanguinius is the best, but Fulgrim's my favourite.
I do get asked often if I've got Sanguinius the model, because most of the time people come on stream and I'm painting Blood Angels. And if he gets a 40k model, then yeah, I will be.
Oh my God, I hope he doesn't, but yeah.
There's rumours, man.
Oh, there's been rumours for like 5 years, and it probably will happen eventually. But
stronger rumours, yeah.
That's why I stopped
and
reading anything about 40k.
We were talking about it. We were talking about before, like it would just print money for Games Workshop.
Absolutely, yeah, it'd print money, but that's why I don't play 40k anymore.
For that one reason, God, he's coming back, and I don't want anything to do
not him
it.
specifically, but the return of the Primarchs, and
I was going to say, is it the principle
mind
of them coming back?
Just completely changed the setting.
I don't mind
and the mood
the
of the setting
return
for me, and I'm just like, nah.
I don't mind the return of some of the Primarchs if it makes sense for the story, but it's going to get.
Does it make sense for any of them apart from the Demon Primarchs?
I don't know. I like Rebude coming back. That's pretty cool. Having someone to essentially lead the Imperium.
Eldar Magic.
I don't know. Was it Eldar Magic? I mean, it was Eldar Magic, and then
he was
the suit of armor as well.
Edge of death, because Fulgrim absolutely did him in with a poison demon sword.
It could have been another Primarch.
Anyway,
but I like the ones that sort of make sense. Don't do what Marvel do with their movies and their comics and bring back people from the death. Otherwise, their death meant nothing.
AKA Fulgrim. Not Fulgrim. Sanguinius. Yeah.
If they want to make a model to the same level of those Primarchs, just make the Sanguinor a beast.
Yeah.
People don't know who he is. Just make the Sanguinor a beast.
Yeah.
Corvus. That's my Primarch.
Obviously, it's be silly not to release Primarchs, but it's not for me. I play 30k and all the Primarchs are there. So yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how the greater 40k community feel about the Primarchs, because I guess if it's your army in 40k, you probably want the Primarch.
Yeah, if you're an old salty grognard like me, then you're bitter about it. But if you're just like a happy-go-lucky 40k fan, hell yeah, it's sick. These super dudes are coming back. What's not to like? The big boss daddy of your chapter.
Totally.
Why would you not want it? But you want to be like a salty old grognard, then you're like,
I wouldn't
get off my lawn.
I wouldn't be disappointed if Sanguinius didn't come back. I love Dante. Dante's sick.
It's a sick model.
Just give me Sanguinary Guard. I'll be happy.
Yeah,
that's all I need.
Yeah, you are keen for Sanguinary Guard.
Yeah.
I think Sanguinius can't come back. If he came back, that would completely cheapen his sacrifice. That save the Imperium and all of that stuff. It'd be insane. Yeah.
And all Dante's visions leading up.
Yeah.
The golden armored warrior that's going to save the throne.
Yeah, the Death Watch and everything. It'd just be, Death Company, sorry. Yeah, anyway.
Be interesting, that one.
Yeah.
Now it'll happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't care anymore, really, because it's not, it's not my game anymore.
Play it.
Yeah.
We'll get Kieran back as soon as it happens.
Yeah, he'll turn into a Death Company.
burn one if they actually have them in stock. Yeah.
The next one we've got from Science State of Mind.
Lockie's brother.
Lockie's brother.
Yeah.
Did Magnus do anything wrong?
Yeah, this is a bit of a meme, isn't it? Yeah, he absolutely did. Like, he had the best of intentions, but he did exactly what he'd been told not to do, and its consequences were so disastrous that they meant that the heresy was lost before it had even started. Because the Emperor had to, concentrate on fighting demons in the webway the entire time, and, couldn't just get up off his throne and end the heresy in, one go, which he could have probably done otherwise. He was locked down fighting demons, trying to save his project, which is the Webway project. That was his vision for humanity. That was the future for humanity. They were all going to live in the Webway, completely cut themselves off from the warp and the touch of chaos. And as soon as the Webway was breached by Magnus, it was all over. The Emperor's plan for humanity was ended. His 10,000 custodies were locked up there for 7 years and were reduced to 1,000 warriors by the time of the heresy. And the Emperor spent almost the entire heresy locked on his throne fighting chaos in the Webway. So, yeah, Magnus did something wrong. He didn't mean to, but he absolutely, chaos had won before the heresy had even started.
I love Magnus. Thousand Sons was actually the Horus Heresy army I was going to pick.
I love Magnus too. He's one of my favourite primates.
Way back. And look, if you like you said, if you break it down into a simple yes or no, yeah. The answer is yes. I wish it wasn't. In the lore video I was actually watching, I didn't realise when Horus was being corrupted on Davin.
Yeah.
Magnus turned up.
Yeah.
In I don't know what you want to call it, spirit dream, that type of thing, where he was where Erebus was trying to convince Horus to turn.
Yeah.
And Magnus turned up and he was like, he's warning him. He's like, don't do what you're doing. What you're doing is wrong. So like Magnus has tried multiple times to try and prevent the heresy from occurring.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, what he did do what Kieran was saying. It stuffed everything up, but you understand his frustration into trying warning people to try and stop what was happening.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to know what happened if there was some type of what if. What happened if Magnus didn't destroy the Webway? Well, he'd end up on the Golden Throne, wouldn't he? He'd be the battery that controls the Golden Throne. I think that was the Emperor's plan.
Mm-hmm.
So Magnus would have just sat on a throne like the Emperor's doing right now, having Psyche sacrificed him to keep the Webway.
He wouldn't be on the edge of death the way the Emperor was, though, and he'd be able to, roam astrally in his, spirit body. So it'd be.
He would, but the Emperor gets what he deserves. To be fair,
yeah.
The bloke should have known better. He had some emotional children. They were extremely powerful.
Yeah. Magnus is a top bloke. He, has a heart of gold. He tried to do the right thing, but his weakness is that he's, supremely overconfident and he doesn't know his own limits.
Extremely powerful.
Yeah, and he's the most powerful, but he's not as powerful as he thinks he is, and he just doesn't know his limits. So he absolutely did the wrong thing, but for the right reason. And it's all part of the Chaos God's plan and all that stuff. So it was always going to happen. He was corrupted by Tzeentch from the very start. He made a deal with Tzeentch to save his legion.
Traded his eyeball.
Hundreds of years before the heresy, so he was always doomed, and Horus manipulated Rust to destroy him on Prospero, so he was always the doomed character, and, he tried to do the right thing, but he absolutely stuffed up.
There's your answer. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Good one. The next one, we've got a spoilers warning.
Oh.
So if you're not up to, what is it?
We can handle it.
Part 3 ending.
Yeah, carefully.
Do you think Dan Abnett should have kept Loken alive? That's from the
Little
Harrow
tidbit.
Masters.
Someone actually asked in chat if Kieran was Dan Abnett.
Are you Dan Abnett?
I was going to say I can neither confirm or deny, but to be fair, I love most of Dan Abnett's stuff, but
demon.
The second half of Saturn 9 is absolutely terrible. So I'm not a fan in every regard. I absolutely love most of his books, but anyway, Loken. No, he should have died on Isfahan. I think that would have just been a better way to go. Like, you know, he's an important kind of character in that, you know, he can be balanced against the other Lunar Wolves or Sons of Horus that have gone bad, and, you know, he can tell a tale from that kind of perspective. But I feel like he was handled well in the last Siege of Terror book that's just been released. But I found a lot of his stuff leading up until they're kind of quite painful, overdone, very, you know, heaps of plot armor, Mary Sue. Like, he should have died on Isfahan. I think that would have just been the way to go.
He essentially got crushed, but then he crawled out of the rubble and became Cerberus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was, you know, discovered by
Garrow?
Garrow and
Rubio?
Yeah. And brought back. That's it, man.
Yeah, hey.
That's it.
Got some
The law
HH knowledge
savant
up
over here. Yeah.
You do know law.
Yeah.
That's it. Boom. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like he should have died, but that could just be like a bit of Grognard Kizza saying, you know, why is he, you know, alive and my man Saul Tarvitz is dead? So, you know, the Emperor's child who died on Isfahan. But anyway, I feel like it would have been better if he had have died. I feel like he did serve a kind of as an important character in the last Siege of Terror book, but I feel like, you know, between Isfahan and the Siege of Terror, he was just a very painful character that whenever he showed up seemed a bit superfluous and felt like the author was just trying to write about their favourite character.
Was this when he was going on the missions for the
Sigilite and Garrow? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like when he went to Caliban and did some stuff, and then
Yeah. Like, it was stuff that could have been done by any other character, essentially.
Yeah.
And some of his feats in Saturnine were just ridiculous, like the people he was killing and fighting and, you know, taken apart with zero effort. It was just, you know, a bit of fanfic, it kind of felt like. But in the end, I felt he was handled well in the last book. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that the last book was when Horus was like, hey, you can still come back? But he was...
Yeah, he'd actually done that in another book already, so that was like a bit of a repeat. But yeah, that's... Yeah.
We won't touch on that too much from there.
Yeah, not too many spoilers. Yeah.
Nah, perfect. So this one's, I guess, almost a follow-up, but from a different person. So Lou Ryder, 1986, asks, should Garvey or Loken return in 40k?
I think we don't talk about that, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll skip that one.
Yeah, read the book.
Should he? Nah.
I think we've nearly got through them all.
If Sanguinius can come back, so can Loken.
Read into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's everything.
That's all
Hopefully,
the questions?
Yeah, hopefully we've answered those to
I thought we had more.
the level. I think I've got them all. I'll double
Nah, I
check.
might have. I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I did have one question, but it wasn't really a question. It was more a statement.
Go for it.
Oh, no, that was one of the questions I got asked.
Ah, the Blood Angels.
Yeah, why are Blood Angels the best chapter? And that's not a question.
Yeah.
Oh, they got the best
There's your
Primarch.
shout out.
I think they got the best Primarch. I think that's their claim to fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got heaps of flaws. Red flaws.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, that's our first Q&A session done.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Hopefully we got through everyone's questions to the level that they wanted. There was a few that went...
What are we going to do when we get like 20 questions?
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut down on the answers a bit, I think.
Yeah. I think we'll just...
efficient.
We'll just do a podcast of straight Q&As.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
do
can
it.
have a quick Q&A podcast.
could.
Yeah.
Well, I think this one might get cut into the Q&A section separately, potentially. We might not push the Q&A to the Spotify. We'll just see how it flows. But
Yeah.
that's fun. It's good.
Awesome.
What's on the agenda for you, Justin, after
Oh, you'd be surprised. I'm going to be painting some more Tyranids.
Tyranids?
Yeah. I'm building some more as well. Like, I need to build a couple more models, but it is going to be Tyranids for the foreseeable future. As long as I get them done before April 26th, I'll be happy. So I've got no real idea of knowing how long it's going to take. If it was Space Marines, I'd have a realistic idea. But because it's Tyranids and it's speed, like a speed painting crossed with detailed work, I've got no real idea how long it's going to take. So
Doing lots of big monsters or like lots of little...
it's a mixture.
and
So
stuff,
it's from Leviathan. So
Oh, yeah.
there's 20 Gaunts, Psychophage, Screamer Killer. It's a mixture of
nice models, yeah.
Yeah, it's a mixture of everything. So if I finish it with 2 weeks before DreamHack, so be it. If I finish it a month before DreamHack, even better. I'm just going to paint them until they're done.
Oh, 2 weeks is plenty of time. I thought you were going to say the night before or something.
I'm definitely no. I'll finish them way before a night before. Like I'm putting in some serious hours.
Easy work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to play some games. So Mark, who's playing the Tyranids, the Dice Daddy, himself and myself, we're going to be playing quite a few games just to get our heads around 40k in general, just to make the battle reports extremely fluent.
Yeah, nice and polished.
We want to polish them up. We're not trying to stage the battle reports by any means, but we want to be able to just be like, this is this, this is this, this is this, and have it just extremely easy to understand for people that are walking past, that are wanting to get into the game.
People don't want to watch people reading books. Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
One moment. I'll just check my rules.
Yeah, and because I haven't played a tremendous amount of 10th edition, I'm sort of still a little bit 50-50.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm referring back just to double check on some things.
Yeah.
But for the majority of the time, I'm pretty good with it. So we're going to just make that streamlined.
A couple of practice games and smooth that out. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
2 armies, you know what you're playing from both sides. So
Yeah.
Too easy.
And then obviously we've got heaps of stuff to organise
Yeah.
for DreamHack. Massive pull-up banners, or like
there's a long list of stuff we need to get ready to make that look professional and inviting for everyone that comes past.
That's it.
Definitely. But should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's what I've got planned for. I think we'll be having, because we do fortnightly podcast, we'll be having this discussion over multiple months. It'll be the same answer. I'm painting some more Tyranids.
We might have to show the progress on the next podcast. Show where the army's at.
I might have to base a couple of the ones up that I get finished, so then we can snap some pics. Not to the same level of the Blood Angels, but there's no way I would possibly finish them if I went into that detail.
Yeah. Yeah, so this month as well, we've got the next Ultimate Guide dropping, which will be the Deathwatch tutorial.
Yep.
So a lot of black armor tips in that one, which would be good for...
Black-blue. A little bit of a black-blue edge highlight.
Yeah.
That's great. It's a colour people always struggle with, so it'll be really handy.
Yeah, it should be a nice detailed one.
Yeah.
I think we'll drop that next weekend, sometime into the next weekend, just to space it out from the podcast. But
yeah, so we've got plans to do some battle reports, and the idea behind what we're going to do with Battleforge Gaming is, in a month, we've got 2 podcasts, so that'll be 1 per week, and then the week we don't have a podcast, we'll try and release an Ultimate Guide, and then the remaining week left in that month, we'll try and do a battle report.
yeah,
That's the plan for our content. There's going to be a lot of work behind the scenes. Tons of work.
if only Kieran painted 40k. That'd be one less
Well,
player.
he didn't want anything to do with it. Hey, maybe we could get some Horus Heresy stuff happening eventually.
If we get Games Workshop to promise to not
They're all
bring back...
Space Marines, aren't they? Like,
It's true. You could just bring them back as intercessors.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just veterans.
what do the original Space Marines not have rules at all anymore?
They are. I think no, they
Like
do.
Legacy?
Tactical
Okay.
is still there.
Yeah.
They haven't gone legend.
Not yet.
No.
Not
Plain
yet.
Army
But
Tactical Marines.
the Dreadnoughts have.
What about Assault Marines?
Salt Marines are now just assault intercessors.
Okay.
So you could use them just as assault
Yeah.
intercessors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better models.
Better models than the new assault intercessors. They're slick. The new assault
man.
intercessors slick.
Oh, man. Primaris trash. Anyway.
We're just channeling the inner Grognard. out
That's
of
it.
you.
100%, man. Grognard vibes. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I love that term. How good.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Yeah.
It rolls off the tongue nicely, especially
Yeah.
if you're angry.
Yeah.
No.
It just sums up anyone in the hobby who grumbles. Like, it's perfect. You're like, oh, he's just a grognard. Don't worry about him. Yeah.
I'm going to be dropping that in my comment section when people are getting grumpy on my stuff.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it does imply, like, a certain age as well. So maybe, like, you can't use it on the kids, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Call them little grognars.
True. Yeah. Little grogs.
Just Grogs. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. That brings us to the end of this this episode. Thank you, Kieran or RaptorImperialis, for joining us.
Pleasure.
Again, it's episode number 10.
We have a link. We'll put a link in the description for his IG.
100%, yeah. So there'll be a link in the description for anyone that wants to check out Kieran's Instagram, which is 100% worth a look. It's unbelievable, and definitely follow him because he's super active and he's just a great person.
Mine's okay.
He's not the grognard we make him out to be.
Mine's okay too.
Yeah, we've got BFG Justin beside me. Everyone,
That's the one to follow. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good
Get your
one.
tutorials.
If you like Blood Angels and Tyranids, he's your man.
Yeah.
There's no pics of the Tyranid yet.
No,
Yeah.
not yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone that's tuned in to listen to us live, and everyone listening across the streaming services. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
See ya.